Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV, here to take you through a new RV orientation on this 2018 Thor Motor Coach Chateau 28Z. Starting right here at the front of the motorhome. This one's on a Ford chassis, so it uses a 6.8 liter Triton V10 powertrain. For any of your Ford service and maintenance requirements, you can deal with a Ford dealer of your choice. For any of the RV service and maintenance requirements, you can deal directly with us here at Trailblazer RV. So to open up the hood, we've already popped the hood from inside, and just release the hood catch and prop the hood up like so. All of the typical maintenance points in the under the hood here are labeled in yellow. So you'll find your washer fluid top up over here, engine oil, transmission dipstick, and engine oil dipstick a little further down here, but again labeled in yellow, so it's easy enough to find. This is also where you'll find some fuses under the hood for your automotive components and coolant reservoir and that sort of thing. Around the side of the motorhome, first thing we're going to find here is our generator. It's an Onan at 4,000 watt gas generator, and it pulls its fuel right from the motorhome's fuel tank, the gasoline fuel tank. If your fuel level is below a quarter of a tank, this generator won't start, and the reason for that is so that you can never accidentally run yourself out of fuel by running your generator. You can open up the panels here on the outside to access an ignition switch to start it from out here. There is also, though, a remote ignition from inside, so we'll show you how to start it from inside at the remote panel. Right here is where you'll find a small storage compartment, but more notably in here, this is where your transfer switch for your generator is mounted, and your control board for your slide out. And not really anything that you need to know about for either of those things, but if you ever needed to manually override the slide out to bring the slide in, if you had some kind of a mechanical failure, you can do that here at the board. And there's a little button inside here you can see with some instructions. So if you press the button 6 times and hold down on the 7th until the LED light starts blinking, that puts the slide in mechanical override mode. So you'll be able to, that bypasses everything except for power to the motors on the slide. So you'll be able to use your slide switch to power the slide in one time, but then you'll need to return to the dealership here to get that slide repaired. Doesn't happen very often with modern RVs and modern slide outs, but just in case you ever need to manually bring it in, that's how you would do it. Right here you have your sewer termination system. So you can see your sewer hose will connect right here. We supply a new 20-foot sewer hose. It's stored inside the rear bumper right now. So hook the sewer hose onto here, other end goes into the ground, and then you've got 2 valves, your larger black valve and your smaller gray valve. Always dump the black valve first, that's your sewage, and once that's finished dumping, you can close that and open the gray valve to dump your gray water. If you always dump the sewage first and then the gray, you'll kind of use your gray water to flush all of that sewage content through the hose, so there's nothing left in that hose when you go to disconnect it to store the hose away. Right above that is our hot water tank. This is the 10-gallon Atwood hot water tank, so no anode rod in this to drain the water. Just pull the little plastic plug from the bottom. Before you pull that plug, you'll want to use the pressure relief valve to bleed the pressure off of the tank so that it doesn't spray when you remove that tank. And this is a gas electric DSI water tank, so there's no pilot lights or anything out here to worry about. Everything's controlled from inside the trailer, the motorhome, as it may be. A couple of vents right here. The larger one on top is for your fridge. You can open up this panel to access the back of the fridge for cleaning or repair work, but it's mostly just a vent. It allows some air circulation through the back of that fridge. And below that is your furnace exhaust. So again, you can open this up to access it for repair work if you ever needed, but keep in mind that the exhaust itself gets very hot when the furnace is running. So just make sure that if you've got young kids around the motorhome, they know to steer clear of that. Right here is where you'll find your 30 amp power cord. So most sites that you camp at, or a lot of sites that you camp at, will have 30 amp power. Some won't. So we also supply a 15 amp park adapter just to break that down to 15 amp residential style power, so you can plug in anywhere. This little drain valve is where you'll drain the fresh water tank for the motorhome, and you'll fill the fresh water tank right here. Obviously don't confuse this one and this one. This is where you'll fill your gasoline for the fuel tank. So when you're fueling your when you're filling up your freshwater system, we recommend using one of those white drinking water specific garden hoses. They're lined with a different material so you don't get that plasticky garden hose taste in your water. And you can also hook up directly to pressurized city water if you're staying at a site that has water hookups. If you're hooking into city water, we recommend using one of those water pressure regulators. So just a little brass piece, about that big, fits on the end of your hose and just maintains proper operating water pressure so you don't over pressurize the RV's water lines. Your main storage compartment right here, so just a huge storage area with extra storage in the live well compartments. The panel on the other side is also a table, so you can use it as a camping table. And the center live well for a spare tire. The motorhome doesn't come with a spare tire. No Thor Motor Coach motorhome comes with a spare tire. Haven't for 10 years or so, and I don't think they encourage customers to change their own tires on the side of the road. If you run into tire issues, you're best to call some kind of roadside assistance. On the back of the motorhome is your ladder. We do recommend getting up onto the roof of the motorhome a couple of times a year and just visually inspecting all of your roof seals, and just make sure you haven't torn that rubber roof membrane, and that your roof sealant, the Dicor roof sealant that's up there, doesn't need to be refreshed. Around this side, you've got several little rotocast storage compartments. Each of these is lighted. They have their own light in every compartment. You'll want to make sure that when you're not in these compartments, you've ensured that these lights are turned off. Otherwise, they're a continuous draw, a power draw on your battery, and it's easy to forget that they're on once those baggage doors are closed. One more baggage compartment up here with its own light, and then your propane system right here. So this is a ASME propane tank rather than a DOT cylinder, so it doesn't come off the motorhome, and you will have to have it filled by someone who's certified to fill propane tanks at the service station. They'll fill it from right here. And make sure once it's filled, when you want to use it, make sure that you have the valve opened all the way up. The mirrors are the extended upgraded mirrors with side view cameras built into the side of the mirror. So those cameras will come on automatically when you engage your signal light when you're driving. And just inside the entry door here, a couple of things to show you. First and foremost, your main power disconnect is right here. So, and that is disconnected right now, but if we turn that on to engage the RV battery, the red light shows up, and you know that your RV battery is engaged. You've also got a couple of switches next to that for your step light, so that you don't trip in this step well in the dark, and your awning. So the awning extends 8 feet. Just press and hold the extend button until it's all the way out. And you don't have to extend it the full 8 feet. You can stop it at any point if there's a tree or another RV in your way. This one is the height adjustable power awning as well. So you can tip one side down to control where the rainwater runs off. And you'll do that just by pulling down on this lower arm. Both sides are adjustable, but we recommend only lowering one side so you can control where the rainwater runs off. Before you put the awning away, you should put both sides back up to the full height. That'll just ensure that the awning canvas rolls up evenly on the roller tube when you bring it in. And follow me inside the motorhome. We'll go over a few more things. So we're inside of the 2018 Thor Motor Coach Chateau 28Z. And standing right next to the central control panel. So this is where you're going to operate a lot of things on the RV. First and foremost, the slide out. So if we just press and hold the extend button, you can hear those motors kick in to run that slide out. This slide uses 2 motors and drives from all 4 corners. So it's a self-adjusting slide. If it ever gets a little bit out of adjustment, all you should need to do is run it all the way out and all the way in again to resync those motors. Once it's all the way out, you'll hear those motors kind of labor and then stop. Then you can take your finger off the button. You've got a couple of switches here for tank heaters as well. You've got heaters on both your black and gray holding tanks. Those work on 12 volt power, but they are quite a power draw. So unless you're using the RV in the cooler weather and worried about freezing up your tanks, you'll probably leave those off most of the time. Right next to that, the switch is to activate your water pump. So you turn that on, you hear the water pump come on and pressurize the system, and then it'll just cycle on and off as needed. And then for your hot water heater, you have 2 switches here. One for 110 volt power. If you're plugged into power, you can, or running your generator, you can turn that on to operate the tank electrically, or you can use the LP propane gas. So turn that on, and if we give it just a second, we should hear the burner light up. And I'm not sure if you could hear that in the video, but now the tank burner is operating, and in 25 to 30 minutes we should have warm water from our hot water tank. Also here we can find our monitor panel, so you can see our propane is completely full, battery also completely full, fresh tank completely empty, and black and gray holding tanks both completely empty as well. This is also where you'll remotely start that generator. So you can start the generator from the outside right on the generator itself, or from here. To start it, press and hold the stop button for just a second until the red light comes on. That primes the generator with fuel. And then press and hold the start button to actually start the generator. And depending on how long it's been since it's been started, you might need to do that a couple of times just to ensure that it's properly primed. And I'll do one more time here. Now you can hear that generator running. It's going to be a few seconds before the automatic transfer switch kicks in and powers up the motorhome. We'll be able to tell that when that happens though, because we'll hear the microwave start up, or the beep as the microwave turns on. There we go. So now that transfer switch has kicked on and we've got 110 volt power to all of our power outlets, microwave, air conditioning, that sort of thing. The reason there's that little delay, is because the generator likes to get up to speed and at a proper idle before it kicks in the power, just so that you know you've got nice clean power. You don't have any messy alternating current power. Right below the central control panel is your thermostat. So you can control both your heating and air conditioning from here. For your air conditioning, you'll need to be plugged into power or have your generator running for that to kick on. But turn the system over to fan for just the fan, or cool for the actual air conditioning. And then there's two different fan speeds, low and high, and automatic per the thermostat, or just always on. For the heat setting, there's only one fan speed, so this switch doesn't do anything. Just turn the system over to heat and turn it up to temperature. The furnace fan comes on immediately, but it's going to be 10 or 15 seconds before we actually hear the direct spark and that furnace light up. You should hear that when it happens. Just like so. Now in a few seconds we would have warm air blowing from our vents. The furnace will just cycle on and off as it needs to. When I shut that down, or when the RV comes up to temperature, the burner goes out immediately, but that furnace fan is still going to run for another 30 seconds to a minute just to go through its cycle. Here in the kitchen, you've got a 3-burner propane stovetop. So all 3 of the burners can be lit using the piezo sparker, and I always recommend when you've recently refilled your propane tank, first thing you should do is come in here and just light all 3 of these burners. Once you can get all 3 of these burners lit, you know you've bled any air that may have been in those propane lines off of the system, and you'll have no problem lighting your automatic appliances, your furnace, your hot water tank, and your fridge. The oven, you do have to light the pilot light, so just turn it over to pilot, push in and hold on the pilot knob, and the oven pilot you'll find right underneath here. This one doesn't work with the sparker knob, so you'll need to light this with an actual barbecue lighter. You can light it right there. Once you see a blue pilot flame, continue to hold in on the knob for 10 or 15 seconds for the thermocouple to warm up. And once you can release that knob and the pilot stays on, turn the oven up to temperature, and you should be good to go. Once you're finished using the oven, you can turn it back down to pilot and just leave that pilot burning, or you can turn it all the way off and simply relight the pilot next time you need to use the oven. The fridge is an automatic gas-electric 6.3 cubic foot Norcold fridge. What we recommend is just setting it to automatic and basically just running it on automatic. When it's in automatic mode, if it has electricity available, it will operate on electricity. But if it doesn't have electricity available, or if you blow a breaker or you shut down your generator, it'll sense that and it'll automatically switch over to gas. You can override the automatic to only run on gas, and you might find that the fridge actually cools down a little faster running on gas than it does on electricity. But having said that, it takes several hours to cool an RV fridge down all the way. So what we recommend is getting the fridge cooling the day before you load up if possible. That way it's already at temperature when you load your food into it. This style of fridge has a lock on the handle, but I just like to point out that it's not to lock the fridge closed, it's to lock the fridge open. And you do that when you put the RV into storage, so that you can get some air movement through that fridge and it doesn't get musty. Here in the bathroom, only a couple of things to cover in here. One is this power outlet. It's a notable power outlet. It's your GFI. So just like the outlets in the bathroom in your home, it has a test and reset button on it. In an RV, that's wired in series with several of your other power outlets. So if you're plugged into power or you're running your generator and you can't figure out why you have no power at your outlets, come into here, press the reset button, and that'll reset the entire circuit. Also, anytime you're using the RV's sewer system, you'll want to make sure and use a good potent RV toilet chemical. The chemical comes in liquid, tablet, or powder form. Doesn't matter which one you use, just that you use one. And when you add chemical, you'll add it right into the toilet bowl, and you always want to make sure to put some water down with it. It takes some water to activate that chemical. So put the chemical into the bowl, then use the foot flush. You can push halfway down on the foot flush to fill the bowl with water, and then the rest of the way to dump the whole works into the tank. And you'll want to replace the toilet chemical in the tank immediately following every time you dump your black holding tank. So come in here, put a new charge of toilet chemical into the tank, and put some water down with it, and you should be good until the next time you dump your holding tanks. In the master bedroom, not a whole lot to cover in here. Your main stereo system is here. So this is AM, FM, auxiliary in, and Bluetooth if you want to wirelessly stream from your phone. I do like to point out that there's two speaker zones. Zone A is inside, Zone B is outside. So just make sure that if you're listening to music inside, that you've got your Zone B speakers turned off. Otherwise, everybody in the campground is listening to the same music you are. Right below that is your power converter. So this is the power center for the entire RV. Breakers here for all of your 110 volt applications, and 12 volt fuses here for all of your DC circuits. You've got 5, 15, 30, and 40 amp fuses here. And it's not a bad idea with an RV to have some spare fuses on hand. It's not uncommon to blow a fuse in an RV. So if you have some assorted spare fuses with you, it won't be a big deal if you ever need to change one in the campground. You also have a MaxxAir fan here in the bedroom. So you can toggle the fan on and off from there, and just manually raise and lower the lid. This one has a cover over top of it already, so feel free to leave this lid open while you travel to get some air movement in the RV as you drive. There's also a couple of safety features here somewhere. Up on the ceiling is your smoke detector. The smoke detector uses its own 9 volt battery. It's not wired into the RV's electrical system. So you want to just test this periodically just by pressing and holding the test button to ensure that that battery hasn't gone dead. And you also have a propane leak detector. But do you think I can find it? Found it. Here is your propane leak detector. And this one is actually a combination propane and carbon monoxide detector. So this will actually do 3 things. It will alert you obviously to a propane leak. However, if you have a propane leak in the RV, you will almost certainly smell the propane before the alarm goes off. Could also alert you to a carbon monoxide situation, in which case you wouldn't smell anything. Or the third and most common thing that this can do is alert you to a low voltage situation with your RV battery. The propane detector is wired into the RV's 12-volt electrical system, so if your RV battery gets very low, this will alarm just like a smoke detector does at the end of its battery's life. And it's inconveniently located right underneath the dinette seat. Couple more things right here in the cab of the motorhome. Your front dash here, this operates, or this is wired into the RV side of the 12-volt electrical system, not the vehicle side. So when you turn on and off the accessory power for the motorhome or for the vehicle, it won't turn on and off the display. You have to do that by pressing and holding the center button to turn it off, and just pressing the center button to turn it on. When you put the vehicle into reverse or activate your signal lights, this screen will automatically be overridden by the rear view or by the side view camera. You can, though, override the display to always show the rear view camera. If you're towing a small vehicle or a boat or something behind you, or even just when you're traveling on the highway and want to see the corners of the motorhome, and when it's safe to pull back into a lane, that can be a really handy tool to be able to use. Again, to turn that off, press and hold the on button. And then the other device that I like to show here, and it might be a little tough to see, down here in the corner is an emergency start switch. If the starting battery for the vehicle ever goes dead, you can use the RV battery to boost the engine start battery. So press and hold the engine start or the emergency start switch for 10 or 15 seconds just to get a little bit of a surface charge into that battery. Then while holding it, you can start the engine, and that way you'll never find yourself stranded. It's something that happens occasionally with RVs because they spend so much of their lifetime parked. Typically, Class C motorhomes are parked for 6 months out of the year. So if that battery ever does go dead, you can use the emergency start function to jump it. I think for the most part, that covers everything. Actually, one more thing, just while I've got you here, I get asked all the time, what's this red backlit switch here on the side of the door? This is for your heated mirrors. With the upgraded mirrors, with the integrated side view cameras, they're also heated. So if you're traveling in the cold weather and want to keep them from fogging up, you can turn that on. And that does it for the orientation on the 2018 Thor Motor Coach Chateau 28Z. Hopefully you've learned something. If you have any questions, you can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer, or you can check our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thanks for watching.